My name is Edgar Werblowsky. I'm a Brazilian, and I am the founder of Freeway Viagens, Freeway Travels, that I started 40 years ago, and starting the ecotourism and the adventure travel in Brazil in 1983. And I've been putting people together and connecting people with nature along all these decades, and organizing trips all over Brazil and the world. And in the last 7 years, after founding Freeway, being 40 years with this, I needed a new challenge, and I was looking at something that would be very important to the forthcoming years. And then I came across the idea of the aging population. So in 2017, I created Free Aging, a platform for events uh, that are connected and regard the necessities and the desires of the people who age. And the first event that I organized was the the first senior forum for the senior housing forum for the longevity. That means how people would um, would be living, how they would be housed in the forthcoming years. So when you age. And when I organized this conference, one theme came across to me that was a very something very new for me. I had never heard about it at that time, 2017, a term called cohousing. I went after it and I came across and I was looking at somebody in the world, especially in the US, that could come over to Brazil and present co-housing at our conference here in São Paulo. And looking at the internet, I came across a lady, a professional architect called Laura Fitch, who was an architect living in at Pioneer Valley Co-housing in Amherst, Massachusetts. I talked to her, and she said, "Okay, I can come over to Brazil." And so I went to the United States. I went to get to know her and see um, who is this lady? What is this thing of co-housing? And I went in 2017 to, to Pioneer Valley Co-housing, Amherst, Massachusetts. And then I started getting to know what is in reality co-housing. I stayed for a couple of days at Laura's Fitch house, her house and her husband's house, and I get to know some people of the community, a community of, I guess, 32 households, around 80 people, a multi-generational community. And that time started my love for co-housing and my certainty, I was convinced that co-housing could be one of the uh, best alternatives for the people who age and are fighting isolation and loneliness. And the the co-housing concept of combining so well privacy and community addressed my concerns in respect alive for for the next decades. And after that, I was into co-housing. On the next year, I took 5 people to get to know communities in New England. We toured Massachusetts, Vermont. We have been to some communities, and I participated at the conference of the Northeast, the co-housing conference of the Northeast, co-organized by Coho US and Pioneer Valley Community. At that time, it was Laura Fitch was, I think, coordinating this conference per Pioneer Valley community. And 2 years ago, in 2021, I organized the first international cohousing course here in Brazil with the Americans, with some of the best professionals in cohousing in the US. And here participated 25 people in Brazil that were interested in creating their communities or in participating in some communities. And last year, I decided that I should take people to see the communities as I did it, because you need to get the feeling. You need to get the experience. You have to talk to the people. You have to address your entities and see what could go wrong. How are they living together? How do they fix their troubles? How do they fix their challenges, their fights inside the community? What does make a community turn into what make a community being a vibrant community? How can you make it a vibrant community? And how can you mislead it and don't make it a vibrant community? And all this stuff, I think if people in Brazil want to lead, want to take part, want to make an effort, want to put money, want to put energy, want to put time into this concept, they should get to know how it works. Before you commit yourself to live in a cohousing, the best thing is get to know it. And so I organized this group, we are going now in 12 people plus myself to the US, to New England, and we are going to stay for 8-9 days there in New England, and we're going to stay in 3 different co-housing communities as being hosted by the co-housers. So nothing better than living for some days with them, to talk to them, to feel how they live, to address our concerns, and so on and so forth. Taking part in communal dinners. We're going to take part in communal dinners in all these communities. And we want to share a little experiences with them. We want to talk a lot with them. We want to be out in the woods with them. We want to go to gardening with them. We want to wash dishes. We want to participate and see is true. So at the end of our experiences, so we could answer a question for ourselves. Is this a way of living that I want to be part of? So that's what we are doing now on the 24th of September. We are flying from Sao Paulo to Boston, and there is going to start our 8-9 days journey through this co-housing communities in New England.
Amazing, Edgar. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that and for letting us know how it all started with you in cohousing. So, because everyone has a different story of how they came across with cohousing and how that seed, that idea got inspired and led them to take action. So thank you so much. So you mentioned Laura Fitch.
Yeah.
She's the one that we all have in common. She was the one, rest in peace, who we all have in common. And you mentioned also Pioneer Valley Cohousing, which is now called Cherry Hill Cohousing.
Right.
So Henry is here. He is a cohouser from Cherry Hill Cohousing, and he will be one of the cohousers who will show all the group how life is lived in a cohousing community, and you will have beautiful experiences with them and the rest of the cohousers. So Henry, can you tell us a little bit about you, about your life in Cherry Hill Cohousing and how you came across with Edgar?
Yeah, so first I want to say, you and I, Flora, met actually not through Laura Fitch, but through Pablo, who's a friend of my tango teacher. And there was coincidence that he said, "Oh, I have this friend who's interested in co-housing. She wants to meet you." And it turned out you knew Laura Fitch and my community. So yeah, I was one of the original members here. 29 years ago, we moved in. Before that, I had always been interested in community and was hoping to live in a commune, and that never materialized. And then we had a young child and a new baby, and life was very, very difficult. We were trying to form a co-housing group in Brattleboro because we'd heard about co-housing before that, and that group fell apart, Brattleboro, Vermont. It's a beautiful area, but the land is very hilly and mountainous, and the laws around development are very difficult to do. So we couldn't find a piece of land that we could afford that we could build a number of houses on. So when that group started falling apart, by then I had met a man named John Porcino, who's the originator of our community here. And he suggested I come down and check out, at the time, Pioneer Valley Co-housing. And so we came down and looked, and this was a group that had land and was ready to start building. And so we joined and moved down to Amherst, Massachusetts. So my kids were 1 and 4 years old when we moved in. My 4-year-old has a lot of difficulties with other people. He's doing quite well now as a 33-year-old, but 29 years ago, life was quite difficult. And so we moved in, and suddenly, instead of, even though we lived in a beautiful house in the woods in Vermont, I loved where we lived, but we didn't really know our neighbors. We'd wave to them as they drove down the road past us, because in the United States, everybody drives, and in that area, things are very spread out. So we moved into this community, and it felt kind of crowded. There were 32 houses clustered on 4 acres, which is 1.5 hectares of land. And we had no landscaping because it had been a construction site. So all the vegetation had been cleared away for the construction. And we had moved from a house deep in the woods. So it was kind of stark here, very, very bright, not much vegetation, and lots of neighbors. And life was a bit chaotic at first, but gradually we planted lots of trees and bushes, and things grew up, and the community started to gel. We figured out systems for how to get along with each other, how to get the work done, how to have meals. So that took a while, but it established a very good system, and life here was quite good. My kids grew up here. Everything was perfect, but they come back and they know all my neighbors. We have new neighbors now, but many of them they still know, and they're connected to, and people connect with them, and it's a nice feeling. It's intergenerational, as you mentioned. So we moved in, the age range of the adults was from 29 to early 70s. Now we have some new young families, but we've been too successful in a way. So only about half the households have changed hands. And so we're all, for the large part, much older, which brings another set of issues. It's interesting. It's very big in the United States right now, senior co-housing. For me, though, I really prefer to live in multi-generational community, having little kids around who know me and I can play with, and and older people that I can ask questions. Early on, we moved in, I was late 30s, and we formed a men's group, some of the guys in the community. And there was a guy who was in his 70s in the men's group, and he was my father's age. And I was close to my dad, but we never talked about deep personal things, certainly never talked about sex, for instance. And here was this man who was part of the community, and we would talk about these things, And it was first time in my life I had friends who were much older, and now friends who are much younger. So that's one of the joys of co-housing. We started early on doing 2 meals a week, every Monday and Wednesday, and we've kept that up all these 29 years. So we still have, tonight I'll go to the community, the common house for dinner, and there's a team of 3 people that will cook the dinner, and another team of 3 that clean up, and someone who will set up, and I don't have to do any of the work, but I can go enjoy the meal. My work is doing landscaping and some other projects that I do here, but mostly I take care of the landscaping outside. So we're divided into 4 circles of how you connect community. So there's the common house committee that makes decisions and plans work for taking care of the common house, and they'll make systems for the community meals and for using the guest rooms and the kids' room, things like that. And they'll buy new furniture when it's needed. There's the landscaping committee called PALS, Plants, Animals, and Landscape Stewards, I think is the acronym. And we take care of the grounds outside. So we take care of the trees and bushes, and lawn mowing is a little bit separate, but that would be sort of part of that. If someone wants to plant a new garden or plant a tree, they come to us for permission. We're doing a big project right now to remove invasive species of plants. So we got a grant from the government, the USDA, which is the United States Department of Agriculture, to remove invasive species. So we need to discuss that and agree with that. And so the PALS group does that. There's also Community Life, which does, interpersonal conflicts. They'll plan our annual retreat that we do every November. We have a community-wide retreat. They'll plan fun events. They do a lot of stuff like that. Anything.
I'm pretty sure that Edgar's group will be joining those groups and see what meetings they have, so they can interact with them and do a sort of a shadow work. So like look from the distance, but also get to participate in a way. So be in both sides to get to know that. So that's really interesting.
Well, we've been promised a delicious Brazilian meal one of the nights, so I'm looking forward to that.
That is part of the exchange. I mean, they are going to your community and they have to bring something from their hometown. So I imagine that very delicious Brazilian things will be cooked in your common house.
Yes. So one more, let me just finish. The fourth group is the buildings and grounds group, and they care of. We're a condominium, which means we own the interior of our houses, but we don't own the roofs or the exterior or the land. And so if the roofs need to be reshingled, or if there's problems with the siding on the houses, then buildings and grounds takes care of that. They take care of our truck. We have a truck. We do our own plowing in the winter. They take care of the lawn mowing and make sure all the machines are working, things like that. In 29 years, things have changed a lot now, especially as we've gotten older. And one thing that we didn't realize is that a lot of the people here like to go away in the winter. And so the people are not here full time anymore. Not everyone, but some people. And so there's less people around, and some people can no longer do work because we do most of our own work. We do our own common house cleaning, and we do our own landscaping, and just a lot of work.
Henry, that brings the topic back to the attention that I wanted to ask you, and I wanted to see Edgar's opinion. And I think that the trip will be very interesting because they will get to experience senior co-housing as well as multi-generational co-housing. And even though the main interest or the main idea that brought Edgar into co-housing, into senior co-housing, is to empower people to design how they want to live and age for the aging population, being able to participate in a multi-generational co-housing will bring them more ideas on how to get the best of the two options to fit the needs of everyone. So I wanted to ask you, Henry, because your co-housing started as a multi-generational co-housing, and it was so successful, as you mentioned, that people are still living together and they are aging together. And what are, can you tell us, and that is something that most of the multi-generational co-housing worldwide are experiencing. Can you share us some of the ideas that you have brainstormed on how to make it better, or to prevent difficult things from happening? Or how do you brainstorm about those challenges years ahead?
One of the things is that people naturally, their friends get interested in where they live and want to join, and as we get older, our friends get older also. So we've done some effort to really reach out to other people. A couple of years ago, we had a gathering for families that was based in the Amherst Family Center. And we invited people to come here, and we had activities for kids and stuff. So we're trying to find ways to attract young families here. And we've made an effort. We've changed some of the rules right now. When a house comes for sale, the community has a month to find a buyer. So, then if we can't, then they can sell it to anyone. But so we have a waiting list of people, and the waiting list was also heavily weighted towards older people. So we've changed sort of how the waiting list works. So now it's a waiting pool, and anyone who joins the waiting pool has first dibs. And we decided to offer houses first to younger families. So we have two younger families who have moved in recently, or relatively recently. And then hopefully they will invite their friends to see things. So there's more interest now among younger people. One of the main problems is that being successful, and just the fact that housing prices in general have gone up, but they've gone up maybe faster here. We did have an attempt to try to keep housing affordable, and that didn't work. So now the cost of housing is very, very high. And it's hard for young families to be able to afford it. So that's something that's a nationwide problem. It's not just based in our co-housing, but it makes it difficult for us to attract young families too.
What do you think about that challenges that they are having, and how can senior co-housing in Brazil consider that fact, or maybe find new or innovative ideas to find the sweet spot between that?
The interesting thing is that, in my point of view, the majority of people who want to enter cohousing are people who are aged, so elderly. This is what we find here in Brazil. As a concept, we prefer a multi-generational cohousing. That means I agree with our colleague, and Henry says that he prefers to have children hanging around, and I agree totally with Henry. I think that this brings joy to a community. This brings new energy, and especially we need young families, young couples with small children to be part of it, because they will run the community for the years in front. They will have the necessary energy to tackle a lot of let's say challenges in the community, the work that has to be done, and so on. The problem is, as Henry said, that first of all, here in Brazil, for example, there is going to be less interest in young families. This is the first thing. And the second thing is that, but we need them. So the challenge is bring them in. Henry and his group, they are together for 30 years. They started the community when they were in their 30s, and now they are in their 60s. So it has to be something. They have to find a way to put more young people in. So, as he said, they don't have anymore the necessary energy to make it all alone. So they will have to hire people. But this is anyway. If they would live in another type of community, not a co-housing, they also would need people to help when they age. So when Henry says about the fees, I think in any alternative kind of living, he would have to have people helping out. That means this would cost something. So this is inescapable. So you can't fight this. It's going to happen. And our challenge in the world, I think it's a world challenge for co-housing, is to get young people in. So we have to think about, and I don't have this ideas yet ready to see how are we going to attract this kind of people. I know one thing that I know. For example, in the co-housing that I'm planning in my city, in my town, São Bento do Sapucaí, in the Mantiqueira Mountains, here in the southeast of Brazil. It's a rural co-housing. No, it's kind of suburban. It's very close to the city, but it's in the nature. And it's going to happen there. A very high quality school is going to be built very close, but very, very close to my profession. And this is very important that young families who can afford to live in a co-housing, that have the money to, because it's, I guess, to live in a co-housing is not less expensive to live in town or in the city. If you are not, I think here in Brazil, people are not choosing co-housing because it's less expensive than to live in the city. It's
Can I interrupt you, Edgar?
yeah.
It's not less expensive to buy the house and that stuff, but since we share a lot of equipment and a lot of supplies and things like that, it does save us some money there. We're not paying, each of us doesn't have our own lawnmower, each of us doesn't hire our own company to plow our driveway, things like that. So anyway.
I understand, Henry, but I think in Brazil, the purpose, the why people would come to a co-housing, it's not, in my personal opinion, in my small experience, it's not an economic decision. I think it's because people want to be in a community.
Yeah.
And this is the big factor. So we have to promote the idea. We have to talk a lot about the benefits of living in a community. And we know them, and you know that. That's why it's so important to be around with you folks, to get to know you, to talk to you in your co-housing, in Rocky Hill co-housing, in Bristol co-housing, in, I don't know, lots of co-housing. How people, how is life there? What make you feel so well? Are you happy? Are you, maybe it's one of the best ways to live. And this is, I think, the biggest driveway for people choosing to live in a co-housing.
Yeah.
Excellent. I think that during your trip, you will have a lot of time, a lot of experiences, and a lot of moments to share your thoughts about this. And I'm pretty sure that when different minds come together for a same purpose, a lot of great ideas can happen. So that you mentioned that that is a topic that is concerned for all the co-housing worldwide, but at the same, it's about something that concerns about all the people worldwide. And putting a lot of minds in the same place and thinking and putting them in a proactive way to think and come across ideas and come up with new perspectives. I think that amazing and innovative ideas can show up from magic and be able to help us with making that happen. Not only making co-housing happen, but also making sure that not only younger families can have access to those surroundings, those housing options, but also elder families and elder people who are lonely and who are aging can also have the option to design how and with who they want to live and age. So I wish you the best in this trip. I think that Edgar, you have to give us all your social media so people can follow along the trip. I don't know if you will be posting content while this trip is happening, but it will be really cool to be alongside you on the distance. So, and maybe in a near future, we'll be able to meet in person.
Sure.
So
That's it.
thank you, Henry, and thank you, Edgar, for.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Let's be in
Edgar,
touch.
I'm looking forward to your visit in
Me too, Henry. Very happy to be with you. I'm looking forward. Prepare the bedroom. I'm going to sleep in your attic.
Yes, you got it.
Okay, have a wonderful trip. Enjoy the experience, the adventure, and I look forward to getting all the results of that answer on that question that you want to ask all the participants of this trip, and that will bring us a lot of insights. So,
Laura, if you want to do a side trip from Denver, you're welcome here.
yeah, of course. I mean, who knows? Anything can happen. We let the magic decide.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much,
Yes,
and
thank you.
enjoy your trip. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.